Hey everyone, welcome to our video previewing the character classes that are going to come up in the Spy game. If you haven't already, which presuming you have if you've checked out the video, check out the quick start already available on drivethrurpg.com, and that has a cool adventure in it, as well as all kind of preview of the in-development rules and some pre-gen character classes, all that you can kind of see today as well, and gives you a chance to check out the game before we go to Kickstarter. We'll be starting that on July 2nd, and we'll be revealing more about the Kickstarter, more about its pledges and all that kind of stuff in the coming couple of weeks. But today we're all about the character classes that you'll be able to play from this modern interpretation of the 5th edition rules of the world's most popular role-playing game. So I've got the whole document in front of me. Bear with me while I pop up some of the cool artwork as well. And we'll be able to go through these. So, first and foremost, creating a character is as you might expect it to be. First of all, you pick a class, and then note down all of its class features, all of the stuff and all the equipment that you get and that kind of thing. And then you also get to pick a background to that, and that supplements some of the stuff you get from the character class. So it gives you some special proficiencies, some advantages, some disadvantages, as well as some cool features as well that are quite unique to the background. Stuff like the secret that you get, the double life that you have, all that kind of other stuff too. And then you determine ability scores, and the ability scores are all the recognisable ones: strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom and charisma. Your background gives you a +2 to one of those as well, or a couple of those, and that gives you your character, basically. Apart from that, you finish off with all your kind of details, including hit points, armor class, all the modifiers and attack values and stuff too. And then first of all, we have got the face. So the face is that kind of manipulative, charismatic, kind of talky character that most groups have. There's kind of, the face is kind of that unofficial nickname, isn't it, for that kind of class you might play like Pathfinder or D&D, where you're like, oh, I suppose I've got to talk to the nobles and be the kind of face for the group. So I wanted to put that into the game. The face has kind of come from a little bit of Bard as well, and that's been the kind of leading influence for that too. The thing is, none of these classes are going to be magical in any sense, even though some of them do have some features that are similar to the SRD classes, like the Technician builds off the Sorcerer a little bit. So the face doesn't have any magical powers as such, but we certainly have some cool stuff that they can do, and we'll talk about some of the influences as well there for some of them. So it's a D8 hit dice, and then proficiencies include a pretty simple mix of melee and ranged weapons. So a simple ranged weapon is stuff from tasers to actual kind of like bows and crossbows and stuff, the modern versions of those. But they also include pistols. So you're not at a massive disadvantage when it comes to firearms, but they don't have as much range in terms of their like ranged weapon equipment as, say, the soldier or something like that. Disguise kits is a pretty obvious one for the face. Think about all those cool scenes in like Inception or Mission Impossible where they've like put on the disguise, or they've put on like the full head mask thing. That's the idea behind that. That they are proficient in disguise kits. Cars, simply for their vehicles. There's a few broad stroke different proficiencies for vehicles, but cars gives them access to most stuff that you're probably going to see when you're out in the field, that kind of thing. And as we scroll down, Dex and Charisma saving throws. And then skills, if you've got the quick start, you'll have the whole range of skills available to look at. I'll mention these as they come up today. You get to choose 3 from, so Deception, and you can see Persuasion in there later in the list too. I mean, that is going to be the kind of go-to face skills, I think. Also espionage being the kind of gathering and kind of deciphering of information. So it's making links, it's listening into a conversation, knowing what that means, knowing what that intelligence is. Whereas infiltration is about actually like, it's like kind of burglary kind of skills. It's like casing places, figuring out the best path to get into a location, getting past guards, figuring that kind of stuff out intelligently. So the Face is all about that too, I think, where they're kind of, maybe they've actually got into somewhere in a disguise. Now they've got to figure out, oh, now I've got to get to like that corner of the room. So like, I thought infiltration would be a good one for them to have. Then insight. Insight's a clear one. It's like cold reading. It's like getting a tell on your mark, figuring out all that kind of stuff. So that's a clear one for Phase 2, I think. Perception's always good, always a handy skill to have at any point. And then sleight of hand and stealth as well. I thought sleight of hand would be cool for the Face, because it gives them kind of a thing where, you know, if you ever watch like any of Darren Brown's little tricks, where he's kind of charming somebody or misdirecting them, and actually, like, there was one time where he actually managed to take a tie off somebody. So I thought sleight of hand would be a cool one there too, because it gives you a little bit of that kind of up close kind of con artistry with thievery put in. So that would be cool. I'm not going to go too much into equipment today because we've got quite a bit to cover. We've got 8 full character classes just to kind of chat through. So let's head off to some of their features. So first feature you're going to get as a Face is the old cover identities. So you have like a multitude of working cover identities, including your own true identity. And they function exactly like real identities. I thought this, like, going all the way to like, actually there is a house on a street somewhere where like that just sits empty unless you're in it. It could be that even the agency you work for could actually plant actors there. So you could have a family, or you could have housemates or something as well. And it also provides any official documentation. So I mean that to be like passports and like driving licenses, all that kind of stuff. So when you begin as a Face, you begin with one cover identity, and you can decide the background for this identity, and that background ties into the backgrounds that come up later in the chapter, in the kind of second section. So the backgrounds that supplement your classes. So you actually get to decide that background, as well as its profession or vocations or anything like that would come with it. The identity functions as if it was true and is an almost infallible disguise. So police or like the tax people or whatever, anyone who kind of asks you about that, they're going to show you identification. If they check that against their databases and stuff, it is all legit. It's like you exist as this person. You also get the equipment granted by that background. So there are a couple of backgrounds that like give you stuff. If they do, then you get that too. Whilst you're functioning as the cover identity, not necessarily all the time. And then you get more of those as you level up as well. So that's all cool. Theme was a cool thing that I learned about from a little bit of a documentary I watched on like MI5, MI6, about a declassified agent who was talking about some of the techniques that they used. One of the coolest ones or one of the more casual ones at least, weirdly enough, came up was the theme. And the theme is where you're establishing a mode of behavior in a public or in a kind of maybe like corporate or a kind of official space where people take you for someone that you're not, but you're doing it while you're looking for intelligence. So it could be that you're going out shopping, or you're a tourist or something. So imagine you're a tourist and you've got a big map, you're wearing like a stupid tourist fedora or something. Like, people always wear stupid hats when they're on holiday, right? And sunglasses, and you're looking a bit confused, and you're like looking for the map and to figure out where to go. You're on your phone, maybe, stuff like that. That all creates this idea that you are this tourist. You are this character you're trying to portray. But you're not really doing any of that. What you're really doing is checking in the area, checking if anyone's tailing you, checking for maybe a bit of surveillance that you're doing. So theme lets you do that. But what it lets you do, it lets you make an infiltration check and add your charisma bonus to that. So it ups that bit more. And the ability check result that becomes the difficulty class for enemy agents to discover your presence. So it's better than just rolling, say, deception and just placing yourself in a scene where people might not figure you out, you know. Jack of all trades is going to be pretty recognizable. Some of you folks who play the fantasy version of 5e, that is just from second level, add your half your proficiency bonus rounded down to anything where you haven't actually kind of picked a skill in that. So it gives the face a little bit of everything, and it just makes them not suck at stuff that's not talking to people. And then from third level, you get to choose a face archetype. And the two that we're going to have on offer from the beginning of the Kickstarter are going to be Greyman and Master Manipulator, and I'll come to those a little bit later as well. And then from fourth level, and again at varying points up the scale, as per usual, we're going to do the ability score improvements for each class. So this for the face is 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th. So as usual, you get to increase one ability score by 2, or 2 ability scores by 1 each. And as normal, you can't increase any of your ability scores above 20. But in addition to that, what we're also going to do, and this came out from some of the testing that you can still watch online on my YouTube channel, that we did on here on this channel, we're actually going to give equipment upgrades for the classes. So it's not that at the beginning at level 1 you just get this and then you hopefully acquire more gear as you adventure. Because what's happening in the spy game is that each mission you go on at the very beginning, once you've had your briefing, you get a kind of like a gear pick or an equipment like requisition. So basically what you do is you decide as a group what you want to grab for the mission, who you want to give that to, and then proceed to the mission. So instead of finding magic items along the way and kind of being quite possessive of those and keeping those on hand, what you do is work as a group to figure out, well, what do we want to take on this mission? Anything from like rocket launchers to like grabbing a helicopter to anything like that, and all kind of cool gadgets too. So there'll be a mix of equipment to pick, which is kind of more standard stuff, like if you want just cameras or bugs or like first aid kits or anything like that, that's a bit more mundane. And then you can also pick gadgets, and there'll be a few slots for those where, depending on the kind of severity of the mission, you'll be able to pick, or like the kind of DEFCON levels. If it's the like priority 1, like it's the most daring, important mission the world will ever not know about, then you can pick some amazing gadgets. But as these classes level up, what we're going to do is offer them better equipment at the beginning of every mission. So you'll notice if we scroll back up, is that way back up here, even though I brushed over this, to just say that when it says you may select the following equipment at the beginning of every mission, you get to mix and match a little bit of what you take. So if you pick a light pistol over a knife for one mission, you're not stuck with the choice. You can always pick, because the thing that's different about this, particularly from the kind of fantasy settings, is that agencies are going to have a fair amount of this stuff in like technical services or like in lockers lying around, and it's really up to the agents and their handler what they're going to take on each mission. So it's not about scarcity, it's not about finding that stuff out in the field. It's about equipping yourself properly before actually going out on a mission, because you always know a little bit about what you're going to do. It'll be very rare where you don't do that, and maybe those will be those missions that have a higher priority rating or something, and so you'll be able to take more. It may even be that you kind of leave some spare equipment and gadget slots open so that you can get stuff in the field as well. So that kind of thing. And then for the face unarmored, which I believe was a bit of a port from Barbarian. It was a bit of a mix on that. At 7th level, when you're not wearing any armor, your AC equals 10 plus your dex plus your wisdom. And you can still use a shield and get that. So obviously the face is probably going to be the class that goes into places, and is going to have to look the part. So they're not going to be able to wear much in terms of armor. There might be some cool gadgets from, like, I've just watched John Wick and he had like a bulletproof tuxedo. There might be some cool gadgets that you can do that with. But unarmored just gives you a little edge when it comes to other classes who might be a bit more proficient in armor. Whereas you might have to go into a lot of scenarios where you are unarmored, because they have to check you and pat you down so that you're not even like wearing a wire kind of thing. And then recognition is about never forgetting a face, basically, even behind a disguise. So that's from 11th level. And you can also gain a +2 bonus to wisdom perception checks relating to empathy and reading another person. Already a bit of a rata there for me, I think, in this little preview. We've got insight checks, so really I think that's wisdom insight. But that's so +2 bonus rather than the proficiency modifier, like, again, you know. So let me write that down, because that's cool. Right. Recognition. And if you have any questions as well, pop them in chat. I'm sure James is in here too, if I can find the thing. You know, I'll be able to answer them. Team player is another little combat thing, because we wanted to throw a couple of combat class features into each class at least, because there are a couple of classes that are quite focused on non-combat stuff like hacker or face, but there will still be a lot of wet work in those, so I wanted to include some combat stuff. So from 13th level, basically as an action, you can grant a bonus action to someone else, attack, dodge, or disengage. Quick change is a fun one, again from some of the techniques that I've seen on little YouTube videos, documentaries about how the CIA works and disguises and stuff like that. So from 14th level, you can quickly change your appearance with a disguise kit in plain sight. So this is like, there's people around you, or you're like running through a shop, there's a bit in Baby Driver where he's trying to put on a quick kind of disguise or just change his appearance up a little bit. As an action, you can make a dexterity stealth check and rapidly change your appearance. So you change some items of clothing, put on a hat, take off a wig, put on some glasses. It's kind of basic stuff that just changes like how you look. And there are some big kind of bold things that you can do that. So like a different hair color is a big change for people, because hair color is a natural thing. I think people take, even though we dye a lot of our hair a lot nowadays, it's a big thing for people, and because it's not an item of clothing, you kind of, it like sinks into your subconscious a little bit more. So if you go from like bright platinum blonde and whip off a wig and now you've got brunette hair, people aren't looking for a brunette haired agent, you know. So it's something like that where you can do this in more or less plain sight, and there are some videos online that you can see of people doing it, and there's some remarkable changes that can happen. So targets trying to identify you within line of sight must succeed a DC 10 wisdom saving throw. So that's just, if the guards aren't stupid, they can see that you have done it. But if they kind of take their eyes off you for a second, or if they kind of block line of sight for a second, they might not recognize you again. Characters trying to identify you after you've done the quick change that didn't see you change have to make a new wisdom perception check against your dexterity stealth check to recognize you, based off the roll that you made. So that should be really cool. I can't wait to see that in action. Polyglot is about languages. So there's often a lot of spy movies where the agent makes like a surprise phrase, or like, you know, again, John Wick 2, I just watched it. There's an agent there who uses sign language, uses ASL, I think, and he signs back a few times, which is great, and you don't expect it, or it's like, you know, James Bond suddenly speaks Japanese or something. Like, it's that kind of those kind of things. So at 15th level, you've learned to speak eloquently in several languages, so you gain a number of new languages equal to your intelligence modifier, and also you can ignore disadvantage due to using a language you're not fluent in to convey just like basic information, like could be like stop or freeze or I surrender or something like that. It's just like, if you want to get something across that's just really basic, then that's not going to stop you. And then Master of Disguise is I think a straight up port from the SRD as well. So the disguise kits you use are distinguishable from the real thing. You make a charisma deception check while wearing a disguise. You add your wisdom modifier to the ability check and automatically succeed against enemies with a wisdom score of 11 or less, which is probably quite a few. I'm imagining the way we're writing them is quite a few guards, or kind of lower ranking agents and stuff, you'll be able to just get through them like really easy. So the two archetypes we're going to have for the face are the Grey Man and the Master Manipulator. So the Grey Man is inspired by those kind of government agents, kind of Men in Black style stuff, where it can be anything from like a janitor to a police officer to someone in authority who, because of the social situation you are in, or like a security guard or something, where you don't think too much about like recognizing and thinking about their face. They're just somebody who kind of blends into the background. Anyone wearing a high vis, that kind of thing. And it's being able to manipulate people in that way so that they can easily forget you, and so that you can blend into the background. So hidden in plain sight at 3rd level when you choose the archetype is all about when you're wearing one of those kind of uniforms, you gain a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus to hide in groups in urban areas. And your proficiency bonus is applied to the DC of ability checks made to recognize your likeness. So it could be like the GM picks a DC, or like uses like a passive stealth, and you get to add your proficiency bonus to that. Cold reading is all about insight again. Whenever you make a charisma deception check against a target, they must make a wisdom saving throw with a DC equal to 10 plus your proficiency modifier. If they fail, you may learn some basic information about their NPC that they give away from subtle facial expressions and body language. So cold reading is exactly that. It's learning to read a person, read a situation, read their body language in such a minute way that they give away certain personal information about them. Could be that I'm literally playing with my wedding ring. Could be that they have taken off their wedding ring, but maybe they hold that finger, or maybe there's indentation there. Maybe they lead with a certain hand, something like that. It all tells you stuff about people that can be really useful. Corporate identity is basically a bit like a kind of gadget pick for free. It's basically you get a little bonus kind of identity that is to do with like a kind of official organization. So like a military organization, government, corporate, anything like that. And you can use that for the duration of the mission. Again, it's one of those things that, like, if it's checked, it will come up in databases because you planted that information first. That's kind of all the gadgets are all about. It's actually not just a bit of paper with a kind of forgery on it. It's actually having done the legwork and put those kind of things in. And then on the inside is pretty cool. It's one I tried at LARP, and when we did a kind of spy LARP before, and it's really fun. I'm hoping that it sticks around. So from 16th level, before your combat begins, from which you are absent, you can make a wisdom infiltration check with a DC of 20 to place yourself as a member of enemy forces. The GM adds one or more enemy characters that is equal or lower than a quarter of your level's challenge rating at the start of combat. Following me so far? Basically, you plant a couple of enemy NPCs in the first round of combat. And in that first round of combat, you can pick one of them to then just reveal yourself as. So you've planted yourself into the combat, into like the situation, and then get a surprise round on the enemy, which is pretty cool. I hope it sticks around. The Master Manipulator is our other character archetype. It's the kind of Darren Brown con artist type person. It's basically the kind of mentalist is the kind of word for it, I guess. But you can misdirect influence and use like psychological techniques to mislead people. Even going as far in the upper levels as kind of like a very low level kind of brainwashing or kind of low level hypnosis kind of thing. Like, it's super creepy, some of the stuff that can be done to people, but brains are very easily confused, very easily persuaded into certain things. Like, from you interpreting, like, your vision is they say is based, like, a certain percentage of it on memory, like 20 to 40% of it is based on memory. Like, what you see isn't actually what you see, it just, your brain kind of fills in the rest because it's lazy. So that is it's intriguing but also quite scary, like, in a way. But befriend is a bit of a kind of charm technique. So you can make befriending a target takes an appropriate amount of time and setting. So you can chat to them for ages. They must make a charisma saving throw or be lured into a false friendship. While the target is befriended, any further saving throws against you are at disadvantage, and any further charisma checks against the target gain a +2 modifier. And then keywords are a part of the kind of psychological techniques where you're dropping in a word like in the middle of a sentence and it almost not being picked up on, almost not being perceived. So starting at 6th level, you lace your speech with these words, subliminally conditioning your target. You make a charisma deception check against the target's passive intelligence. If you succeed, you may direct them to perform one simple action, like moving to a nearby location, looking in a particular direction, or placing their weapon down. So that could be a guard that you're talking to, that you're pretending to be, like, the janitor again or whatever, and some of these keywords just start making them think about just putting their weapon down now. So now they're disarmed, and now you can, like, the infiltrator behind them can now sneak up on them, kind of thing. You must both be fluent in the language you're using, and the GM always has final say, because, again, we're not into magic spells here in the spy game. Punch bag I thought was quite fun. So punch bag, a little bit like Nerd Rage in Fallout 3, I think. It's more like it's basically you pretending to be less, I don't know, fighty than you actually appear to be. You actually are. So at 9th level, when you're the target of a melee attack, you can allow the target, the attacker, to automatically hit you. And if you do, then the attacker takes a -2 penalty to their AC until the beginning of their next turn. So basically, they attack you, but they provided you an opening to attack them. And yeah, they let their guard down. And then from 13th level, you also gain an advantage on attack rolls while this penalty is in effect. So it's just like doubled up on the ability there as well. And then Entrance is from 18th level, and it's going into some of that more like low-level hypnosis kind of stuff. You can put unaware or friendly targets to sleep with a hypnotic command. So unaware being maybe that you actually put yourself in line of sight of somebody, but then it's that kind of immediate like sleep kind of thing, and like people go down. So the target makes a wisdom saving throw with a DC equal to your charisma score, and if they fail, they fall asleep. So see the unconscious condition. So they might drop stuff, fall unconscious, do all kind of weird, creepy things. Yeah. Let's fade into the infiltrator now. So this is a D8 hit die as well, but they've got a bit more in way of proficiencies for their stuff. So light and medium armor. They've also got explosive ranged weapons as well, because I thought kind of setting charges and stuff for infiltrators would be pretty cool. Thieves' tools, of course, and hacking tools. Hacking tools making an appearance. A kind of an original idea for 5e. And I thought as well, the infiltrators, they kind of like, maybe they know how to use this stuff. They're not hackers, they're not really into it, they don't write their own software or anything, but they can certainly know how stuff is working, or how to use it at least. Kind of hacking through a door or something, you know. And then vehicles, I just gave them motorcycles as well, because I thought that was cool. Cars as well will give you most of the stuff. Okay. Saving throws, I give them Dex and Charisma. So it's fair to say that the Infiltrator is based heavily off the Rogue. I just kind of thought, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you'll see quite a lot of Rogue class features coming up. Saving throws, yeah, I've covered that, sorry. Skills, you choose 4, so they haven't got a load to start off with. But then acrobatics, athletics, deception, infiltration, infotech, kind of bouncing off that hacking tools thing, perception, persuasion, sleight of hand, stealth, and tactics. So there's a lot to choose from, but only like an additional one to actually pick. Equipment. They get a fair amount of cool stuff. Again, fairly similar, quite simple melee. Again, some simple range just to start off with, but again, like we covered before, when they get those ability score improvements, they'll also get some equipment score improvements. So that will increase. I just haven't actually got around to the finer details of those ones yet. Expertise. So at first level, choose 2 of your skill proficiencies, or 1 of your skills, 1 of your tool proficiencies, and double them as per the normal rogue stuff. Sneak attack is exactly the same. So an extra d6 damage, and that increases as they level up, as long as you have advantage on the attack roll, or there is an enemy within 5 feet who isn't incapacitated. Thieves at Work was original though, and from second level you can recognise the work of other infiltrators, thieves, or master criminals. When faced with some bit of thievery, you can recognise it as thievery, and then if you've previously identified the work of an individual, so if you know that it's, you know, the Pink Panther or something, I don't know, then you can recognise that work as theirs, particularly. Then the cunning action is as you would expect it from the rogue. You can take the dash, disengage, or hide action as a bonus action in your turn. Then the infiltrator archetypes come up at third level. You get them 9th, 13th, and 17th. Ability score improvements, again at the usual levels, and the equipment upgrade coming with that as well that we're putting in. And then Uncanny Dodge starts at 5th level. When an attacker that you see hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to halve that damage done against you. Evasion, again very similar I believe. You can dodge out of the way of certain area effects such as an explosion. When you have to make a dex saving throw, to only take half damage, you don't take any instead, and if you succeed on a saving throw, you actually only take half damage if you fail. And the reliable talent. By 11th level, you've refined your chosen skills until they approach perfection. Whenever you make an ability check that lets you add your proficiency bonus, you can treat a d20 roll of a 9 or lower as a 10. So you can pretty much do most basic stuff, as long as it's not too hard. Blind Sense is a little bit less magical than the SRD. So starting at 14th level, so as long as you're able to hear, you are aware of the location of any hidden characters within 10 feet of you. So it's that kind of like agent with a right, like stood behind a bit of cover and is kind of listening, and like you're always like, you as the viewer, as a watcher of the movie, you can see where the enemies are, and you get this kind of sense that like they know where they are too, and then they like swing around and like get each one of them with shots, you know. Slippery Mind is the same, slightly less magical. You've acquired greater mental strength. You gain proficiency in wisdom saving throws, so that just gives you another proficiency in that. But by 15th level, you've got quite a high proficiency modifier. Elusive at 18th level lets you invade attacks quite well. No attack roll has advantage against you whilst you are incapacitated. Aren't incapacitated. So that's quite a strong thing, but again, 18th level, you're getting to some really funky stuff. And then by 20th level, you have an uncanny knack for succeeding when you need to. So it's basically once every kind of short rest, if your attack misses, you can turn it into a hit. If you fail an ability check, you can treat the d20 as if it rolled 20. So again, once per short rest, you can make something crit, or you can hit somebody if you really needed to. And then the archetypes we've got coming up are a couple. Assassin, definitely inspired by Agent 47 and the Hitman series. It's that kind of double pistol, garrote string type person, infiltrator, precise killer, not the soldier who goes in, strong AC, you know, boots on the ground type person. It's more the person who can kind of disguise themselves, can infiltrate locations, can snipe targets, can, you know, get to people. And I just love the kind of cool two-pistol shooty type stuff, so that comes up in a second. So quick to action, starting at 3rd level, you get to you have advantage on any attack you make during a surprise round, and you can make a reaction even if you are surprised. So that gives you a little bit of ability when you're kind of flat-footed. Dual pistols from 9th level. When you use a bonus action to make a range attack with a second light pistol in your other hand, you can add your proficiency and dex modifiers to the attack and damage rolls. Probably a little bit of rewording I'll do later in there, because obviously you only add your dex modifier to the damage. But when you normally do a like 2-weapon attack, pretty sure you don't add your proficiency or your ability modifier to the damage. So that gives you something cool too. Then extra attack gives you 2 attacks instead of 1 at 13th level. If you make the attack against an unaware opponent, both attacks have advantage, just for clarity. And then Assassin's Mark. At 17th level, you become an uncompromising hunter of your target. Once on each of your turns, you can add a +5 modifier to the attack roll or damage roll on an attack you make against a target you mark at the beginning of combat, and score a critical hit on an 18 to a 20. You can choose to use this feature before or after the roll, but before any effects of the roll are applied. Once this enemy combatant has been defeated, you can mark it on the target. So this is a bit of an adaptation of the Ranger 20th or maybe 17th feat they have there. Thief is the second archetype we're going to have available at Kickstarter, and is pretty much Thief from the 5e SRD. So I am going to skip over that. I think I'd change the name of Second Story Work to that, whatever it was before, but I think it's pretty much the same. So I'm going to skim over that, and then I'm going to change a little overlay here to our martial artist. So the martial artist is a D10 hit die. So they're a bit tougher than your other two that we've looked at so far. Proficiency is only in light armor, simple melee ranged weapons. So everything, pistols as well still, remember. But then melee, simple and traditional melee weapons. So for those again who've got the quick start, just a little cheeky shill available on DriveThruRPG for free right now. I might post it in the chat as well, and I'll put it in the description below. You'll have a whole table of kind of starting equipment that we've already developed for the game in beta. I wasn't in the chat room. That was a bit odd. Not seeing any messages come up. Someone type a message, and if it comes up, then I'm good. If not, I'm not sure what's going on. But yeah, you'll have a whole range of different weapons you can get from the quick start. Some of those are categorized as traditional weapons, so they're more like your swords and spears and stuff, but also some of the weapons that are used by your kind of martial artist practitioners. So that's what I've included there. Thanks, Phony. That's brilliant. I wasn't in the chat for some reason. That's a bit really weird. Anyway. Hopefully that comes up again. All right. And then saving throws, strength, and dex, I believe, as per the class as usual. And martial artist is based heavily off the monk as well. So again, we might take might speed through this a little bit because they're very similar. Skills to choose from, only 2 from acrobatics, athletics, infiltration, insight, and stealth. And then you get only a little bit of starting equipment at first level, and then as improved per the equipment upgrades at the same time you get your ability score upgrades. You get a traditional weapon, and then also a pack of your choice. And there are varying new kind of equipment packs that you can grab. I'm starting to get chat messages, that's good. Alright, so let's skim to unarmed defense at first level. While you're wearing no armor and not you're wielding a shield, your AC equals 10 plus dex plus wisdom. Martial arts, again, you get your d4 like weapon dice for unarmed attacks and for like improvised attacks. And then the die changes as you go up. That says monk levels, that shouldn't say martial arts levels. And then ki, I've just changed to the kind of more accepted spelling, Western spelling, I guess, of ki with a Q. Just change that throughout. And it's, again, the same kind of key points that you would usually spend. Flurry of blows, patient defense as those starting kind of key kind of ability things. Unarmed movement increases your speed by 10. And by 9th level, you can move a quarter of your speed along vertical surfaces on your turn without falling during the move. But you can't end your move during that. So it's a little bit of the Matrixy running up walls kind of stuff. But it's a little bit more real, based in reality. A little bit. With a bit of movie magic behind it, I guess. Martial traditions that are going to be available are going to be Shaolin Kung Fu and Krav Maga. Yeah, so closer to parkour unarmed movement. That was the idea. Might even add a little bit into like falling damage, because parkour's all about falling the right way, rolling with the jump, that kind of thing. So might throw in a bit of that maybe. Bulletproof Monk was fun to rename, but basically remains the same. You can try and dodge range attacks and catch simple ranged missiles, not bullets, but simple ranged missiles like arrows that you come under fire from. When you do so, the damage you take from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus your dex plus your martial artist level. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the missile, so that the arrow or the bolt that you've had from the crossbow or whatever. And you can spend 1 key point if you want to throw it back, basically, just for the range of 20. So I think I adapted that a little bit. Ability score and equipment upgrades as usual, beginning from 4th level. And then this is a little newbie from me, Disarming Strike, because I did a fair bit of work on grappling, restraining, and some of the disarming stuff, because there's going to be a fair bit of that where you're infiltrating somewhere where you're actually sneaking up behind a guard, and you want some of the advantage of being able to grab them with both hands, restrain them completely, take a weapon from them, that kind of stuff. But the martial artist just gets a kind of a pumped up version of that, where basically as an attack, they can make a strength or strength athletics or acrobatics check, contested as usual for like grappling. If they succeed, then you can take 1 weapon that the enemy's holding. So it's not that you have to restrain them first, which is what we do in Spy Game, and then after that, as an action, you can then try and disarm them, and then you let go, obviously, whether you disarm them or not. It's actually as an attack, and that's an interesting specific rule, actually, because if it's an attack, then you can benefit from the extra attack that's coming up at 5th level. So you can do it twice. So if they're wielding 2 pistols, you could disarm 2 pistols in the same turn. You can spend a key point as well to make an attack with that weapon as a bonus action. So beginning at 5th level, you can attack twice instead of once. When you make the attack action. Stunning Strike. Starting at 5th level, you can strike nerve points on an opponent's body. When you hit another creature with a melee weapon attack, you can spend a key point to attempt a Stunning Strike. The target must succeed on a con save or be stunned until the end of your next turn. Maybe the end of their next turn, but we'll iron out those details, I'm sure, in beta. Starting at 6th level, you get your key-powered strikes. They ignore resistance to bludgeoning damage. So if there's any armor out there that has some resistance to that, then that goes down a grade. And then evasion at 7th level, you're instinctively agile. It lets you dodge out the way of certain area effects, like grenade blast, explosions, that kind of thing. Jumping out the way in typical kind of movie fashion. When you're subjected to an area attack like that, you make a dex saving throw to only take half damage. If you do that, because a lot of saving throws ask you to do that, to take half damage. But if you succeed, instead you take no damage. And then only half damage if you actually fail. So that just gives you that boost there when you target of those kind of explosions. Stillness of Mind at 7th level, you can use your action to end 1 effect on yourself that's causing you to be frightened or stunned. So that's 2 of the conditions we have, and that lets you ignore one of those. Purity of Body at 10th level, Your mastery of the ki flowing through you makes you more resilient to disease and poison. You have advantage on any saving throws against poison, disease, or toxins. Scrupulous insight is about those wisdom insight checks to determine if someone intends to harm you, very specifically. People who you read with a successful insight check cannot surprise you in combat until you have completed a long rest. So the idea is that even if they're talking to you, even if they don't look hostile and they suddenly turn hostile, you won't be surprised. Focused awareness at the beginning of 14th level grants you proficiency on all saving throws. Additionally, whenever you make a saving throw and fail, you can spend 1 ki point to re-roll it and take the second result. It's a handy re-roll. Tireless Body, 15th level, gives you a second use of the second wind action during combat. So second wind is kind of a new thing for the spy game that we found early in the alpha when I was testing it here at home. And basically, because there's no healing potions around, we needed something to help people just heal some hit points now and again during combat. So taking a little bit of idea from 4E with kind of adrenaline surge type stuff. So second wind lets you spend some hit die in combat in order to regain some health. So from 15th level you can get a second use of that, and you may spend ki in the place of hit dice, rolling your martial arts dice as opposed to your hit die to regain those hit points too. So it's really like a big buff, you know. Empty Body. At the beginning of 18th level, you can use your action to spend 12 ki points to stabilize yourself while dying. And that's quite a lot for what you have at the time, but it could be a lifesaver. During that time, you also have resistance to all damage except force damage. And then Perfect Self at 20th level, when you roll for initiative and have no ki points remaining, you regain 4 ki points, just like the monk, I guess. And then the traditions that are coming up, like I said before, one of them being Shaolin Kung Fu, and one of them being Krav Maga. Looking into this, I did quite a bit of research on the kind of Shaolin practices. So there's a bit of detail there just on what that is and what their philosophy actually is in terms of these martial arts and their practice. It's a deep focus both of meditation, of internal and external force, that kind of stuff. Five Tigers in Interception style is a style that I had a look at. So then adapted it for kind of like a rules thing. Starting at 3rd level, when you choose this tradition, you may gain proficiency. You gain proficiency with a staff if you haven't already, and you can apply the martial arts class feature to it, regardless of its two-handed property. Because you need a light property for it usually for your martial arts weapon. This ignores that because their focus on spears back in the day, really. Whenever you hit a target, it should be a creature, but target with an attack using an unarmed strike or staff and spend a ki point, you can impose one of the following effects on that human target. So you can't push them 15 feet. You can't push a car 15 feet away from you. At this level at least, but you can succeed on a dex saving throw or be knocked prone. They have to do that, or they can't take reactions until the end of your next turn. I say that about vehicles just because I think philosophy behind some of the vehicle write-ups for the NPCs and enemies is that the crew will be kind of part and parcel of the stats. So it might be that you fight a tank or an attack helicopter, and that's our equivalent of a dragon, like an Apache. So if you're fighting an Apache, it's got all the stats. It doesn't necessarily have an intelligence or a wisdom, but that's the pilot. That's what they're kind of providing for the stat block. So being able to push an Apache helicopter 15 feet doesn't sound quite right. So I chucked in the human target thing there, just a caveat. The wholeness of body at 9th level, you can draw on your ki reserves in the body to stay in the fight. As an action, you gain temporary hit points equal to 3 times your martial artist level. You must finish a long rest before you can gain use of this feature again. Key-powered staff. You can spend key points when you attack with the staff. Each key spent adds martial arts die to the damage roll. If the damage is more than double the attack's normal maximum damage, the GM may declare the staff is broken. And then Drunken Boxing lets you channel your ki like that of water, so you're kind of shifting, quite evasive. You can spend a key point as a reaction. You can make a contested dex acrobatics check in response to an attack. And if you succeed, you take no damage. You can move a bit as well without provoking an attack of opportunity. And then Krav Maga is one of the more original ideas behind the archetypes that you can pick. Krav Maga is more of a kind of modern school of martial arts. It combines a lot of different older traditional styles, but also isn't kind of ever evolving, ever adapting style. And this is reflected really in the archetype that we've put together. So at third level, if you're grappled or restrained by an opponent, you can escape by making an attack action with an unarmed strike. If you cause damage to your opponent, you can spend a key to also escape their grasp, removing that condition if needs be. Counter strike at 9th level. When an opponent fails an attack roll targeting you with a melee weapon, you may spend 1 key to make an unarmed strike attack as a reaction with a +2 bonus to the damage roll. So Krav Maga is a lot about those kind of swift movements, about defense and attack in the same motion, and that's really what Counter Strike was for me when I put that in there. Weak points. Krav Maga doesn't take any prisoners when it's your own defense at stake. So from 11th level, you can target a person's weak points. You can blind them, or you can incapacitate them as well. One of those following effects until the end of their next turn. And then Deadly Palm Strike is, I believe, actually from Monk, and that is 17th level. You gain the ability to make a lethal unarmed strike. You can spend 4 key points, and they must make a DC 10 con saving throw. If they fail, they're reduced to 0 hit points. If they succeed, they take 10d10 bludgeoning damage. That's pretty hefty. So that was pretty much Monk, but with some cool additions, I think. Now we're on to the Ranger. So this is not Lara Croft, basically, but also a lot inspired by the kind of Bear Grylls survivalists. If you ever watch a survival program on Discovery or something, you know what I'm talking about. The Ranger is that. It's exactly that. So D10 again. This time I wanted the Ranger kind of straddles that line in fantasy where it's that kind of a little bit more magical, a little bit druidy, but also quite soldiery. So that's where I was going with it. So in terms of their ranged offering proficiencies, you can have simple and military ranged weapons. Melee also includes traditional, because you might actually use staves or swords even, or that kind of thing, no tools as yet. A tool might come up in beta where we put that in because it's like a survival pack or something, although I know the packs aren't tools themselves. Vehicles, I thought, give them a few motorcycles, cars, and heavy vehicles, or heavy goods vehicles is the kind of category it's going to be, roughly speaking. Saving throws, dex, and con, I think, as usual. And then skills, choose 3 from acrobatics, athletics, medicine, perception, survival, stealth, and tactics. All great choices for prospective kind of wilderness missions, but also kind of urban environments where maybe it's kind of been saddled with war a little bit and that kind of thing. A bit kind of ruined places. Natural Explorer is, as you would expect, it's that favoured terrain goodness of the Ranger. It doesn't slow you down, does all that kind of cool stuff. You can move more stealthily, all that kind of stuff. You get 3 favoured terrains in all, 1 at 1st level, and then 6th and 10th level as well. Excuse me. And then Danger Sense, you get an uncanny sense when things nearby aren't as they should be, and this is that Danger Sense from Ranger as well as normal. You have advantage on dex saves against things such as traps, can't be blinded, deafened, or incapacitated. to gain that benefit. From 6th level, you can re-roll a d20 and take the result from either re-rolled or the remaining die from the original roll for that kind of stuff, for the saving throw. Fighting style, and it's worth mentioning these before they come up in Soldier. There are a few new fighting styles, slightly renamed fighting styles. Close quarters combat, CQC, is +2 bonus to attack rolls with unarmed or melee weapons. Defense, +1 bonus to AC. Marksmanship, traditional fighting gives you +1 to damage rolls with simple melee, bows, crossbows, improvised ranged weapons. So it gives you that kind of bow advantage. And 2-weapon fighting, you add your ability modifier to the damage of the second attack too. Ranger archetypes come up at 3rd level, as usual. Ability and equipment upgrades as normal too from 4th level. And then an extra attack at 5th. Land stride at 8th level. Means moving through difficult terrain costs you no extra movement. You can also pass through hazardous vegetation without being slowed down by it, without taking damage from them if they got like poisons or any dangerous plants and that kind of thing. A vehicle proficiency at 9th level, you gain another one in your favourite terrain. For each of your favourite terrains, or 1 new air vehicle proficiency. And you gain another vehicle proficiency at 14th level. Camouflage is a little bit adapted at 10th level. As long as you've got time, you can use the natural environment to disguise yourself. You gain a +5 bonus to dex stealth checks as long as you remain there without moving or taking actions. Multi-attack at 13th level gives you a volley that you can use your action to make a ranged attack against any number of creatures within 10 feet. With whirlwind attack as well as an option, which means you can make melee attack against any number of creatures within 5 feet of you as well. Tracking expert at 14th level means you can automatically find tracks of creatures and other agents who are not trying to cover their movement. You also have advantage on survival checks when trying to find evidence of movement that's been obscured by the target or the enemy. Resilience at 17th level means that you can re-roll a saving throw, must take the second result, and you can use it 3 times before a long rest. Natural senses at 18th level. You've learned to trust your senses, so that they help you fight enemies you can't see. Doesn't impose disadvantage if you can't see them. You are also made aware of the location of any hidden enemies within 10 feet of you, provided you aren't blinded or deafened, and you are in your favoured terrain. And Master Hunter is locked like the Assassin one from before. You can add your Wisdom modifier to the attack and damage roll of an attack you make. You can choose to use this feature before or after the roll. Any effects have been applied. That'll need a little bit of tweaking, I believe. But that is my starter for 10 for the Ranger. And the archetypes, the 2 that we've got available from the Kickstarter are going to be Guerrilla Fighter. So this is more about like asymmetric warfare. It's kind of freedom fighters this is taking on from that kind of thing. So from 3rd level, you can make improvised explosive devices, and that's a little bit in negotiation with the Game Master. From 7th level, in your favoured terrain, you have contacts in the local population that can help you provide like a safe house or kind of direct assistance or even some kind of intelligence that you might need from them, providing you still have a good reputation with them and they have the ability to actually help you as well. And then Sabotage, you gain a bonus D8 damage to attacks against objects and vehicles with your explosives. Damage rolls against personnel that are caught in the blast do not receive this bonus. It's very much about sabotaging certain assets, buildings, weapons caches, all that kind of stuff as well. And then Ambush Tactician from 15th level really lets you properly organize a group so that you can overwhelm a larger force, which is all about what guerrilla warfare is all about. Small groups of people making the enemy feel like they're fighting a much larger force than they actually are. when you attempt to infiltrate or gain surprise over an enemy before combat, you can make a tactics check in place of the group's dex stealth checks. If you succeed, all members of the team have surprise over the enemy NPCs. And then Survivalist is exactly those kind of Bear Grylls survival people. And all those kind of programs that you kind of watch, like a Seven Discovery or something. Determination for survival is a +2 bonus to con saving throws to resist the effects of taking on levels of exhaustion from not getting enough food or water. So a lot of these programs talk a lot about the will to survive, and having to push that and pushing the body as far as it can through that exhaustion, through not getting enough water, through not getting enough food. And it's just giving the ranger, this archetype, a boost to that they need. And pushing through, beginning at 7th level as an action, you can gain temporary hit points equal to your hit die. This increases to 2 hit die at 13th, 3 hit die at 17th level. Also, when you spend hit dice to regain hit points during rest in your favourite terrain, you add your proficiency bonus to the roll. So that gives you a nice bonus to the actual health that you get back. And then poison resistance from 11th level gives you advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance to poison damage. And then true survivor from 17th level gives you a bonus d6 to all survival checks, and you have advantage with saving throws related to suffering conditions due to your favoured terrain. In addition, your favoured terrain, you can no longer be surprised in combat. That was the Ranger. Coming up next, we've got the Soldier, which has got some pretty cool, funky art with all this kind of techie equipment, really over elaborate gun attachment kind of stuff there too. So yeah, there. The Soldier is one of the only, I think, classes with a D12 hit die. We upped them all a little bit from the SRD, if I remember rightly, because guns are such a powerful thing when you look at them compared to some of the stats for bows and arrows and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of a balancing thing too. And then they basically have all the armor and weapon proficiencies. So from light, medium, heavy armor and shields to simple range weapons, all the way through to heavy and grenades, and not explosives, as that's more of a technician thing, definitely. First aid kits as a tool proficiency I thought was quite kitsch, because I think they'd be trained in at least giving first aid to fellow combatants as well. And then vehicles would be cars and heavy vehicles as well, from kind of tanks and troop transports and that kind of thing. Your usual strength and constitution saving throws, as well as 3 skills from acrobatics, athletics, intimidation, survival, and tactics. And then starting equipment, there's a fair amount of good stuff on offer, as well as an assault rifle at first level is pretty damn good. And then that'll improve, obviously, as you get more from the equipment upgrades that you get from 4th level as well. Training, then, is your first class feature for the Soldier, and that comes with a certain light training, like the Ranger we had earlier. So automatics, they all do some cool stuff. I'm going to breeze over them a little bit. So you've got stuff like automatics, so stuff with burst or full auto weapon properties. CQC is that close quarters combat kind of thing. And CQB, both of these are a little inspired by like the kind of gun fu of Equilibrium, or like the Metal Gear Solid CQC stuff from Snake Eater. Explosives as well. Marksmanship is that thing you want to go for if you want to go down the kind of sniper route, because you get to ignore disadvantage at long range. 2-weapon fighting as well gives you that little bonus too. Adrenaline Burst gives you your temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your soldier level at first level. Your action surge at second level Once on your turn, you can take an additional action, and twice at 17th level, that kind of thing. Quick load then at 3rd level means that reloading is second nature to you. So normally when you need to reload, that is an action. I wanted to have a little bit of interplay between that thing of firing off a number of shots. I could have made reloading part of the move that you do in combat, but I thought then there wouldn't ever be any kind of tactical play off between attacking and reloading early, or not being able to attack and having that awkward position where you have to figure out, well, I need to reload, or now I need to kind of try and get a bonus action out of something. But for quick load, you can reload it as part of your move instead of your action in combat. When you get that as soldier, because you're just that quick. And then your squad roll from 3rd level is your archetype as your normal. 4th level, you also get your ability score and equipment upgrade as usual. Extra attack at 5th level, and then 11th and 20th as well. And then Indomitable as usual at 9th level. You can reroll a saving throw that you fail. If you do, you must use the new result. You can use this feature twice between long rests and 3 times at 17th level. So the squad rolls, there are a few more than just 2 that are going to be on offer for soldier, because for fighter they have quite a few as well, and soldier tends to be the one that is a bit more catch-all in terms of its approach. So like I always think about certain characters on screen when trying to think about this. James Bond to me would be like a multi-class, like 10 levels in soldier and 10 levels in face. John Wick's like soldier, like he's just assassin, maybe infiltrator, assassin, I don't know, but I wanted to give some flexibility there for the soldier. So we've got platoon leader, so that's all about coordinating your team, giving them actions. I really liked in 4E when they did the warlord, and giving your actions over to your allies, letting them do extra certain attacks or actions and that kind of thing. And I wanted platoon leader to be about that kind of thing, about you coordinating a team, giving your actions over to your allies, and having real like tactical play, and that comes to its fore with 18th level when you're asked to roll for advantage, you can forego your initiative roll to add your intelligence modifier to all of your allies' initiative rolls within 60 feet. So basically you'll go last, but they'll all get a boost to their own, so that might help out. And then assault is that up close and personal John Wick style type of combat. So you get a shield bonus at 3rd level. Breaching as an action, you can set and detonate an explosive charged just as a bonus action. The explosion or attack does not deal any damage to any other targets and will automatically unlock any standard door. Blast doors or any reinforced doors may be immune to this. That's providing you have the stuff as well. You get additional training at 10th level from that. 3-gun training as well. If you've seen the videos of Keanu Reeves like running around that gun range in somewhere, I want to say Texas, where he just switches between the 3 guns real quick, that is this. So at 15th level, between extra attacks in your extra attack feature, you can switch to another firearm you carry. So there's always that thing in like first-person shooters as well, where switching out to a pistol is always much quicker than actually reloading the weapon. So it's that kind of thing, but you're just that quick that you switch between weapons, even between attacks. And then Survivor gives you another kind of boost of resilience to your hit points as well. Enforcer is being like proper up close and personal. It's a trained thug, kind of combatant. So everything from close protection, which is lending disadvantage on an attack roll to an enemy if you're within melee range. Doing extra damage to an unaware enemy. Doing extra damage to critical hits with piercing and slashing weaponry. Dirty fighting adds conditions and stuff. And then you also get some resistance to bludgeoning damage as well, which is always helpful. That kind of thick skull type thing. And then sharpshooter, I've got to have, because snipers are such a cool archetype. I think so many people are going to go after like a sniper. That sharpshooter it's got to be included, right? So you've got your improved critical from 3rd level there, and that is your improved critical as you might expect from 5e. I know that exhibits in the champion, I think, from a fighter. Sniper's Nest lets you set up one of those. Oh, someone's left the fieldcraft test in here. That's survival. And then it provides you with some half cover, basically. So you can set up a little dugout as part of that. Headshot lets you add to your critical damage. Bullet penetration, when you hit an enemy with a ranged attack with a rifle, you can make a second attack roll against a second target if the line of sight that you draw through that first goes through into the second target, like directly. So you can literally line up a shot and get like 5 targets or something. Or, sorry, 2 targets. So that's pretty funky. Bullet goes through one and into the other kind of thing. And then superior criticals at 18 to 20. So you bring that from the improved critical to the superior critical. And then Hacker is all the fun too. So Hacker follows a little bit of Wizard from the SRD, but we have this whole new kind of battleground, really, when it comes to information technology and communication technology. The internet has provided such an amazing space and communication method that has just grown like in my lifetime. I'm old enough to remember the days of not having the internet at home, so it provides us for the spy game, particularly as the kind of like the setting is kind of like tomorrow, where the hacker people can, there are different classes, will be able to do basic kind of hacking type things. They'll be able to try and access different systems, or like hack them, or try and install software. But it's the hacker that really knows how to do that, really understands how to get through that. So they can do all sorts of stuff to computer software, security systems, communication systems, all that kind of stuff. The software they get is going to be like a bit like spells. They were built like spells in a mechanical sense. So they do certain things. They work a little bit like spells. So that was the idea behind them. But they're only ever really going to affect the sphere of information and communication technology. So where there is software, you can't hack a person, you can't hack the planet. But where there is technology, you'll be able to work around it. So they're a D6 hit die, so they're one of the squishiest of the bunch. Only proficient in light armor, simple weapons, hacking tools, obviously. And then they get to choose their vehicle proficiency from cars or motorcycles. And then saving throws are intelligence and charisma. And then they can choose 4 skills from deception, espionage, infiltration, infotech, mechanics, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth. It's a long list, but there is also quite a lot of social manipulation involved with the hacking kind of stuff. So if it's like ringing up a call center or pretending to be a call center, if you've ever had one of those phony calls from Microsoft that are trying you to get to install a piece of software on your computer, and then show you that there's a bug there, it's exactly that kind of stuff, right? So you start with a laptop or tablet for each mission that has your personal OS on there as well. Then equipment can be a light pistol or a baton. Again, this is when you begin a mission each time, and then only light armor, like one of the packs as well. They're also going to get installation slots, a lot like spell slots, and those increase as they go up the levels, as you can see from these ones. you can see that a lot of the levels like 15th and 17th don't have a class feature because they have had the installation slots on the OS increased. So as a hacker, you get access to all of these actions. You don't need a piece of hacking software or a hacking tool to be able to do this. You just need to you need to be able to access the system you want to get to, and you need to have a device to be able to do this. But it's that like hacking software I see cinematically is where like a bit of software, you punch in a few numbers, you press return, and you let it do its thing, and then you kind of sit there like that. Your hacking as a hacker is you mashing the keyboard. It's like, I'm doing all the stuff, I'm doing it all really quickly, really proficiently, and I'm doing it all myself. Like, I am the hacking tool. That's my kind of thing for that. So accessing a piece of software lets you enter an operating system or break through a password. DC varies on that depending on how many firewalls are installed, and also for the GM of kind of how, I don't know, robust the operating system is, I guess. You can also encrypt stuff. Encryption basically turns plain text into ciphertext. From the research I've done on it, I'm not like an IT guy, I don't know properly, but having looked into it, done enough research on it, basically if we were to encrypt this rulebook, it would just jumble up all the letters, and the cipher that it uses is what jumbles and unjumbles those letters. It tells you that a P turns into a D, or whatever that is, or a hash, or whatever. The more complicated the cipher, the harder it is to decrypt in the action below. When encrypting information, you choose the difficulty class that you want to test against. And if you pass your test, that becomes the difficulty class to decrypt the data. So yeah, it's a little bit of cinematic magic, but you are the one who does the encryption, and you know that encryption. It is a bit mentalist, it is a bit kind of beautiful mind kind of stuff, but those are the kind of people we're talking about when we're talking about the spy game. Like, they're incredible people, and they're top of their game, even from level 1. So decrypting data basically lets you reverse that procedure. If you have the encryption algorithm, the DC is 0. You don't have to test. Again, it's like a bit of software. You basically punch in a few numbers, let the software do the stuff, and voila, we have a rulebook that we can read. If you don't have the algorithm, though, you have to break the cipher, and that DC varies based on the complexity of that cipher. You can install new software onto the system. Base DC is 5. Quite a lot of the time, I imagine I would rule as a GM that, like, as a hacker, you're probably going to go in with like an intelligence with modifier of +3 and a proficiency of +2. Like, you can't fail. And it's a controversial thing, but rules as written, a 1 is not always a crit fail. Only in combat, a 1 means you miss. Every other skill test, if you roll a 1, you still add your proficiency, you still add your ability modifier. If you beat the DC, you still succeed. So if the DC is 5, a lot of the time you probably won't have to roll. You install a piece of software, you put it in the right place, you get it on there for what you need. Modify means that you actually go and you rewrite the code, you rewrite the software that's actually on the computer, or the bit of targeted software that you want to think. It may mean that you can disable the function, or it means that you can change up the piece of software in some way. And to start with, I'm leaving this quite open for both GMs and for players to decide a little bit of what that means for them in the scenario they're running. Part of what I'm going to do with the pieces of software, the hacking tools themselves, because they work a lot like spells, I'm actually going to prescribe quite a lot of what they do. I was leaving it a little bit more open, but during some of the beta testing we had on this channel, Oz was saying to me that it was a bit difficult for someone who wasn't so initiated in like a kind of IT to figure out what all this kind of stuff meant. So it is very much going to kind of be like, you know, attack a password and do 5 coding damage to it and that kind of stuff. So it's very clear to players, even though they might not know too much about this kind of stuff, what it all means, you know. You can disable software as well. by sabotaging its code and switching off manually, so you can get into some of the kind of operating system itself and like just disable and stuff. You can delete, which means you uninstall some software that you have that you can see on the operating system that you're attacking. You can also attack. So this is a little bit more abstract, but basically, operating systems themselves will have an AC and hit points like objects do. Firewalls, so everything from like anti-piracy software to a password is a firewall technically. You can just attack their code. So you roll an attack using your intelligence and proficiency against their armor class and hit points. And then successful attacks do 1d4 coding damage as per kind of those attacks in normal combat. At first level, you get a personal operating system, so you get that like laptop device or tablet or whatever, and it contains 2 first level hacking tools of your choice. And then you get more installation slots as you go up levels. It's where you keep all your cool hacking tools, basically. Like I said, it has armor class, it has hit points, it can be attacked. You can be like typing away, hacking something, and then there's another hacker on the other end typing away and hacking, and there's that hacking fight that happens somehow in cinema. I wanted to capture a bit of that, even though we know it's a bit silly. But I thought that'd be cool too. So your computer can be attacked too, and that's the vulnerability of actually being kind of connected to another device. Your hacking ability is a lot like the kind of spellcasting stuff. Your hacking save difficulty class is 8 plus your proficiency plus your intelligence modifier. Your attack modifier is your proficiency plus your intelligence modifier. And when you make a hacking attack, you do not add your intelligence modifier to the damage. That's the like spells as well. Install new software as you go up levels, like we've said. The hacking style, you actually get to pick at second level your archetype. A bit different from the other classes so far. Your ability score improvement and your equipment upgrades are happening as normal from 4th level. And then eidetic memory from 18th level. You have developed your cognitive recall to the degree that you can retain detailed, specific information about subjects and stuff you've researched, or situations that you have been present in. So this is like the kind of Sheldon Cooper of Big Bang Theory kind of stuff. Eidetic memory is basically like photographic memory, as it's otherwise known. It's like you never forget something you've learned or something that you have experienced. Basically gives you that kind of easy question to the DM. Do I know this person? I remember this person. What exactly do I remember about them? And you guys can negotiate on that about pertinent information that you should know. And then the excuse me, top tier Advanced Persistent Threat 20th level class feature. Advanced Persistent Threat is a term used in the hacking world for a whole team of hackers persistently attacking a system. So they're taking it in shifts. It's a whole team of people. And what this class feature does is it kind of takes that and it makes it look like your hacks are performed by a team of people. You are that proficient that you are taking on the work of like 2 or 3 people. So you choose 2 third-level hacking tools as your signature tools. You can use these even if they are not installed on your operating system. During combat, when you succeed a hacking action, either of these tools can be used as a bonus action. So you're so good with these new tools that you just know how to use them. Like, balmy, but cool. And then the 2 styles on offer for hacking styles, the Kickstarter, are going to be Black Hat and White Hat. Black Hat is a term used in the hacking world for the bad guys, for people who maliciously go out, hack systems, fish for your details, and that kind of stuff. And so basically that's all about actually digging in and hacking. Script kiddie is a cool term for someone who, say, like, I'm not a good hacker. Say if like I decided I wanted to hack something, I would have to like buy a piece of software to do it for me. So a script kiddie basically lets you do that, install one level hacking tool of equipment for half its cost. And that's all about getting into systems. White guy style of hacking is all about helping defend against hacks. So from software updates, tracers, freeware in this 6th level thing, and then testing for kind of hacking attacks at 10th level, and system forensics at 14th. It's all about defending attacks, defending hacks from external places. There's a lot of white space. There we go. That's medic. Medic next. Medic is our kind of cleric class, you know. But a bit of kind of bio-terrorism style, kind of, definitely not Krieger from Archer, but heavily inspired by. So they're your medical experts. They've got a D8 hit die because they're quite close. They're going to be doing a lot of wet work. They're going to be getting their hands dirty in combat, so they're not at a serious disadvantage there. Still a fair amount of simple weapons that they're proficient in, but then they're proficient in quite a few tools as well. And while it's not been heavily developed yet, I've certainly got ideas to develop some of the medical side of things, so that first aid, healing hit points in combat and stuff, excuse me, that's very kind of first aid-y, kind of very quick fix type stuff. Whereas if it gets serious enough, I think surgery is going to be quite an important thing, like getting people into like trauma surgery and stuff like that. So I want to include quite a bit of that, and I want the medic to be the one that has to perform those kind of surgery stuff. So surgeons' tools are definitely going to be a thing. I just haven't developed too much of that yet. In terms of vehicles, just cars, because those ambulances will come under cars because they're a type of truck, still within that kind of size bracket. Saving throws are intelligence and wisdom at the moment. Might make that something else because of how they are in combat, but we'll see how that comes out in beta testing. You choose 3 skills from athletics, infiltration, infotech, medicine, persuasion, and survival. So a nice spread there. Athletics is more about getting to your patient, I think. Medicine, of course. Infiltration as well, just helping out in terms of actually being able to be a spy as well as being a medic. Again, just making sure that everyone has at least some combat stuff too, and that kind of thing from every single class as well. And then first aid is actually taken from Bard, I think, maybe. But during a short rest, you can help your allies. Might be a cleric thing. You grant them an extra D6 hit points when they heal up, and that improves as you go up in level as well. And then diagnosis is a bit of an kind of an automatic diagnosis. Simple, problems, diseases, that kind of thing will be just straight up question, I imagine, for GMs. Otherwise, providing you've got the time to examine them and stuff, you are the one able to make wisdom medicine checks in order to get a proper diagnosis of what's going on. You can also identify the use of poisons, use of toxins, depending on their traceability, at the discretion of the game master. There's quite a lot of kind of like biological and chemical warfare that's really kept under wraps. It's an unfortunate truth of life that in certain laboratories there are some very, very deadly chemicals kind of out there, and they're very, very hard to trace. There's a case a couple of years ago in the UK. There was a case again a few years ago in the UK where people were poisoned as part of like a clandestine operation, and it's taken the best minds in the field to be able to like diagnose and detect those substances. So that's all part of that too, basically. Vital points is a little bit like a sneak attack, but you don't have to have you have your advantage on the roll. Actually, I believe I'm taking that out. Actually, you don't have to have advantage on the roll, but you get a D6 bonus damage with your finesse weaponry. So if you're using Dex and finesse for your melee attacks, you could add plus 1d6, because you know exactly where to hit, you know exactly what's vulnerable, that kind of thing. Medical specialization is your archetype, so you get that at 3rd level, like a lot of classes. Your ability score and equipment upgrades will go up from 4th level as normal. So bringing it a little bit into reality again, but the idea here behind resuscitation is a little bit like reviving people, resurrecting people in your normal fantasy games. I did a little bit of research into kind of time that you've got in order to save somebody and that kind of thing. From 5th level, you can gain the ability to resuscitate someone with CPR. If the patient has been dead for less than 6 minutes, you can make a wisdom medicine check with a DC of 20. Trying to actually get someone back up using CPR, there's actually quite a surprisingly low survival rate. And so the DC is really reflected in that. If you succeed, you bring them back to life with 0 hit points. They're not stable, but but they must begin making death saving throws, but you can start trying to stabilize them again. Then from 6th level, preventative medicine. When you heal hit points of another character yourself, you can offer them a bonus 1d4. There might be some substances, some certain kind of medical gadgets that give people extra hit points. Hit points for me are more like adrenaline in the spy game. There's less actual damage going on and more hero points, more determination and like moxie and stuff. So just giving them that boost of adrenaline might actually heal some hit points, and you, as the medic, you can give them extra. And then stabilizer from 7th level, you are just better at stabilizing people. When you stabilize them, you give them temporary hit points, which help them out from attacks against them again. Control metabolism. So because of your own medical knowledge, you have a better understanding of how to deal with poisons and toxins in your own body. So whether that's just keeping calm and slowing down, lowering your heart rate, binding off a limb, that kind of thing, you're able to do that as part of this feature. So you add your proficiency bonus to Constitution saving throws, avoiding those agents acting on your body. In addition, you grant one ally you can clearly communicate with advantage on their next Constitution saving throw. Basically, it's giving them that advantage too. And then Frontier Medic is basically using anything you have to hand to be able to heal people. From 14th level, you don't suffer disadvantage or you're not stopped from providing first aid because you don't have the right medical equipment available. Providing you have basics like cloth, water, and all that kind of stuff. Lifesaver, starting at 20th level, this is your big hitter for the medic class. When you would normally roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points, you can instead use the highest result possible. I think that was just a straight port from the SRD2. But then medical specializations like doctor, general practice, treatment, condition recovery, so you can help with actually taking away some conditions, and talented surgery as well. All helps you with the actual hands dirty style stuff of the kind of medical stuff that you need to work on. And then the biochemist is the second that's going to be available at Kickstarter, and that should be a pretty cool archetype for me, I think. So this is all about working on nerve agents and toxins and poisons and stuff. So it's about actually making them, actually using them, as well as finding the cure for them and investigating the forensics of scenes too. So there will be forensic kits, there'll be forensic tools available to characters, and this will just give you that extra edge when it comes to that. There's a whole free page here for no need. And then the last class that we've got available that we are going to look at today is the technician. And the technician is as much as hacker is about software of stuff, The Technician is about the hardware of things. It's about the actual nuts and bolts of how it works, even from computers all the way into like vehicles and to gadgets too. So they're a D8 hit point thing, so they're not as squishy as some. It's only the Hacker that has the D6. They've got a good range of armor proficiencies though. I think just because they're used to having the equipment on them. So they've got quite a lot of proficiencies, including all the vehicle proficiencies. You get to choose one from the heavier stuff like tanks, helicopters, planes, and ships. But you've got a lot of skills as well. 4 from athletics, espionage, infotech, mechanics, sleight of hand, and tactics. So moving ahead. So technical services is your first class feature. And basically, a lot like the sorcerer, instead of spell slots, what you're going to have are gadget slots. So these are personal gadgets that are going to be your own private gear that you have to do the upkeep on and stuff like that. You can't swap out in between mission, but it gives the team that you're working with some extra gadgets. So the Technician themselves don't have many class features. They're not like burly like a soldier. They haven't got the actual actions like a hacker or anything like that. But what they do have are the gadgets themselves that they're able to acquire. And as you can see above here as well, you'll be able to get more as you level up. The gadget levels might change a little bit, that might change up, but this is still the spirit of the class, is that you get all this kind of stuff too. So you acquire those gadgets. You can repair equipment as well, so if objects have been damaged, like you can damage objects normally in 5e, you'll be able to actually repair those. You'll be able to actually repair vehicles and stuff like that. The technical expertise lets you focuses your experience and training in a particular of these, from demolitions to ordnance. So that is actually your archetype. So you get that from 2nd level, a bit earlier than other classes. And then Technical Wizard from 3rd level. You see what I did there? I couldn't put Technical Sorcerer. I think that really worked. But Tech Wizard, you can use technical points, a lot like Sorcerer points, to create gadget slots from 3rd level and convert gadget slots to technical points from 3rd level when you're actually gearing up for a mission. And then after your regular ability score and equipment upgrades, you get precision techniques, which is all the kind of cool stuff that you can do as a technician. So from 5th level and then improving at 11th and 17th, you can get stuff like shaped charges, so you can actually protect some targets from an explosive that you've set. A range extender, you can overclock a gadget, you can extend something's battery life, you can create like high impact damage, rapid deployment. So it's all about augmenting different gadgets and making them work exactly how you want to work. Bodge job as well, if you need to like change something on the fly or repair a piece of equipment that's been broken or something like that. And then from 20th level, I said they didn't have many class features. From 20th level, you can regain 4 expended tech slots whenever you finish a short rest. So that's going to be quite potent for the Technician. So the 2 Technician archetypes we're going to have available from Kickstarter at the beginning. I might change. I've got a 3rd in mind that might be cool as well. But Gadgeteer is going to be the one focused on augmenting and changing up those gadgets, including having some black market contacts, including disguising other stuff, and some custom enhancements. It's all about changing up the gadgets, how you want them to work. And then the Transporter is not like the movie. It's about the getaway driver. It's about the person getting you from A to B. Who's that guy in the A-Team? The crazy guy who flies the helicopters and does all kind of cool stuff. It's all about the vehicles. So advanced course is about, Murdoch, there we go. It's about your giving you a bonus to your vehicle checks, doing cool maneuvers, ignoring disadvantage on your ranged attacks if you target a vehicle's weak points, and you can do that as a bonus action. So you can be like skidding and like shooting out the window at the same time. And then also evasive maneuvers during your chase scenes. So when you use the weave maneuver, you can designate an opposing vehicle. It receives a +2. You receive a +2 bonus against AC from attacks against that vehicle and stuff. So it's kind of like augmenting some of that from the maneuver as well. So those are all of our character classes, and I am going to go over a little bit, just briefly, of the background. I'm not going to showcase the different backgrounds that we have right now, because they do need a bit more development before we actually get into beta at the end of the Kickstarter. But what these what the kind of shape of them will show you is how they work. So when it comes to normal 5e fantasy games, stuff like that, I have combined a little bit of what the backgrounds give you and also what the racial bonuses give you. Because race is not a thing in the spy game, in the real world. It's actually about what you have, where you came from, what you learnt before you became an intelligence agent. So we'll have backgrounds like academia, sports, military service, all that kind of stuff. So it's about what you were before, an agent. So you get an ability score increase as normal, so everything balances out. So this will be everything from strength through to charisma. You'll get a couple of skill proficiencies as well that you wouldn't necessarily normally have. Again, a bit of a combination of kind of the racial bonuses from 5e, but also the background stuff. Give you a speed. Most people will be 30 feet. The sports background will be 40. And then you also pick your nationality at this stage, which just informs how other countries, how other governments will view you. And then also languages. You get to choose one language that you speak fluently, and then depending on your background, you might get to pick more. Special advantage will give you an advantage on certain saving throws and circumstances, and then a special proficiency will give you proficiency with a set of tools, weapons, or armor, or a vehicle, or something like that, based on your background. And then come the background traits, and these have changed up a lot, and they changed a bit during beta. I really think they really lift up the theme all the more now that we've got these ones. So the double life that you have is your civilian life outside of the actual agency. And this really can depend kind of on how much you want these to be prevalent in your game. So, as a GM, as a group of players, you might not be bothered too much about the outside lives of your characters, about the kind of backgrounds of your characters. They might not feature very prominently, so you don't have to do much of this kind of stuff. But the double life just describes who you are, your friends and your family and your standard of living. The thing is, this double life can be used against you. We see so many examples in movies, unfortunately, that kind of trope of the girlfriend in the fridge kind of thing, where families are held hostage or someone is killed or something. It provides either motivation or it provides a problem for you to overcome. So imagine if your arch nemesis discovers where your family lives. Like, you are screwed. Like, you need to work on that. So it's exactly that kind of stuff that you see from lots of different movies. And Alias is the one that comes to mind for me, where she's a college student, but she's also working for the these operatives and the CIA and stuff. Like, it's balmy, but yeah. And then your secret is something that only you and maybe a select group of people know. And again, it's something that can be kind of taken from you and used against you. And the secret is something that only you and your GM should know. It could be revealed during your spy career, and if it is, then that's catastrophic. Like, that becomes a real problem for you. And that's the idea behind the secret. And an ideal is really kind of why you're in the espionage world, and is a personal moral. Could be political. It could be just be describing a relationship with the group of players, the characters that you have. Or it could be an ideal that you have about your nation, your government, or other governments and stuff like that. And then your bond is a special relationship with someone. It could be someone outside of the agency, outside of your player group. So a character who you have a very personal connection with. Or it could be someone that you actually are playing with, one of the player characters present at the table. And that provides, it also informs what you think about that person, and how you kind of relate to them and all that other kind of stuff. So those are our classes. Basically, as I said at the top of the stream, if you want more information, you can get the Spy Game Quick Start right now on DriveThruRPG. That is available. I'll post that in the description. That's my Discord. You don't want that, and all my other stuff. And I'll post the link in chat again. And I'll put it in the description as well in the YouTube video. And then we're going to be providing more information as it comes out in the next couple of weeks on blackcatsgaming.com. We have a newsletter you can sign up to. We'll push that stuff out there first on the newsletter as much as we can, and then we'll also be putting stuff out through press. So make sure you check out websites like I'm hoping NWorld Takes the Story. We're currently on Beasts of War as well. We've got a thread going on Reddit. I've also got a thread going on RPGNet as well. The Quick Start gives you a lot of information, a whole ton, from a lot of the rules, a lot of the basic rules. It gives you pre-gen characters up to 3rd level. It gives you a whole 3-act spy adventure to work your way through to give it a go with a group. All gearing towards a Kickstarter that begins on July the 2nd. And we'll have more information, as I said, all through these channels, through my channel, RPG Webby, on Reddit, on Twitter, and on blackcatsgaming.com as the Kickstarter approaches. So we'll update you with stuff about pledges, with stuff about what's on offer, and all the products and stuff too that you can grab. So I really hope that you've enjoyed looking through the classes with me today. I hope it's enthused you to go and check out the game and also to back us on Kickstarter. That just leaves me to say thank you very much, folks, and we'll see you soon.